Good morning, Internet fans. Ryan Perry, Simple Biz Support. Today is Wednesday, August 5th. Therefore, it is actually, it's Social Media Wednesday. And as usual, I have Sarah Giametti with Pravaro Marketing on the other side. Good morning, Sarah.
Good morning, Ryan. How are you?
I'm doing fabulous, thank you. It's hard to believe we're already rolling into August, which means December will be here, which means 2016 is going to be here like tomorrow, I guess.
Way too fast. This is just blown by. Although we are, a month away from playoffs for baseball. So that's the plus for the time going so fast.
That is true, and hopefully those Dodgers can hold on to first place and keep marching forward through October.
That would be a great plan, but they have to remember how to hit in more games than not, unlike the rest of the season.
Yeah, that is true. Today, though, we're going to talk about what happens, or do you have a plan if this happens? Should your social media account be hacked and maybe there's some disparaging remarks, or an employee posts something that's possibly inappropriate? Or worst case is you've actually outsourced your social media to an agency and they've posted something that maybe people find derogatory or offensive, but it really sheds a negative light. The big question then becomes, how do you react to that situation?
Right. Most small businesses don't have a strategy in place to deal with a negative post that happens that could, shine a negative light on the business. It was an inappropriate post that should not have been made in the first place. Or if you're hacked, most businesses don't have a plan in place. And so there's two parts of this episode. One, how do you handle this if it happens? And two, how do you put a strategy in place to try and prevent this from happening in the future? So if this has already happened to you or you don't have a plan, here are steps how to negate it. And if this has never happened to you, this might be a great opportunity to sit down and put a plan in place to try and prevent this from ever happening to your business.
Right. And I think one of the key things that people can take away right now that you brought up before the show was the fact that on Twitter, if your password is password, they will not allow you to delete a hacked post. Is that correct?
Correct. So if somebody hacks your account and your account password is password, basically Twitter is saying your password was not secure enough because it's a terrible choice of a password, is just password. No @ symbol for the A, no 0 for the O. And even that's not a great idea because clearly everybody knows what those are with this. But if your password is just password, they're not going to let you delete hacked posts because you should have been more secure.
Right. Okay. So that's real quick, easy. Hopefully nobody out there that's watching this episode is using a password that is that simple. But let's actually go through. So you actually have 4 steps that people should go through in evaluating the situation and how they should respond to it.
Right. So number 1 is determine whether you should delete it or not. And you'd be surprised, but not always is it the case that you should delete the bad posts. We had an instance where one of our employees posted something about fashion on my marketing website. Obviously, it's totally wrong, inappropriate, not a negative inappropriate, but it was not the correct post for our page. And we just left it and played off of it like, oops, sorry, like we got away from ourselves or something like that. So when you have an incorrect post, you don't always need to delete it. However, there are a couple instances where you should. One of them is if it's lewd or derogatory, if it's profanity, naked, any sort of nakedness that should not be on your social media, racist, things like that are super offensive that you need to just take down, then that's when we can take it down. But it doesn't necessarily mean it's going to go away. Especially if you have a very popular account or if it goes viral, people take screenshots of these things. And you've seen it all the time. United Airlines was a famous one where they had just this happen and people took screenshots of it before United could take it down. And so it lives forever. So be aware that even if you delete it, it still might exist in the inner world or internet world.
Right. Yeah. But hopefully, if it is something, if you can get rid of it as soon as possible, if it makes sense, I think that the key decision is don't make a knee-jerk reaction, because if it's something that doesn't necessarily need to be removed and you do, it just kind of creates, I think, the baiters out there, the trolls, the people that are trying to create controversy. It just gives them an opportunity to. Whereas if you are able to respond to it quickly and accept and, say, hey, yeah, this happened, and, spin it in some way that it's a positive thing. We're all human, and I think most 99.9% of the people out there understand that we're human and that mistakes do happen.
Right. And the before we lead into what number 2 is, and that's taking responsibility, the other instance for possibly deleting them is an obvious hack job. So if somebody hacked your account, or you had a former employee that you didn't remove access to them, remove their access to your account, and it's clearly a hack job and they're posting things that shouldn't be there, those are, go ahead and delete those, because you can still go into what our step 2 is, take responsibility. And that is own up to it. Yep, like you said, we're human. Go, yep, we're human. We totally screwed up. We're really sorry about it. And if you did delete the post, explain why you deleted the post. So if it was an obvious, if someone hacked your account, explain that it was, your account was hacked, so you remove those posts. Or if it was a lewd photo, that you just were not comfortable leaving that attached to your brand. But take responsibility and take ownership for it, and just, because 99.9% of the time, when you say, yep, you're right, we totally screwed up, we're sorry, we'll do our best to not let that happen again, it calms all the negativity, all those trolls, all the troublemakers that want to just create controversy. When you just own up and say, yep, you're right, we screwed up, then they have nothing. It's like bullies. They have nothing to go on. Whereas if you're defensive, going, no, we didn't do that, I don't know what you're talking about, those are the people that are going to have the screenshot, and they're going to go, they're like, oh, really? Here's proof. And you're just going to make the situation worse.
Right. Yeah, there's definitely no need to fan the flames. And I think the best example I can think of that is the movie 8 Mile, where Eminem, I forget, he's Marshall Mathers in the movie or whatever, but he's got the rap off, and he's like, yeah, I know you're going to talk about me being white, and that, I live on the wrong side of the trailer park, and, my mom uses drugs. I know you're going to talk about that, so I'm going to talk about it first. And the poor guy, when it was his turn to rap, he didn't have anything to say, because he basically, took all the ammunition away up front.
Right. And so that's a great strategy. And then on the social media side, the famous one was, I think it was Amy's Baking Kitchen or something like that. If you guys could have seen Ryan there.
Not to do. It's like, please do not follow Amy's Kitchen at all.
Yeah. It was Amy's Baking something. It was ABC. It was Amy's Baking something. So it was not, let's be clear, it was not Amy's Kitchen, the vegan food conglomerate. It was not them. It was some small restaurant in, I think, Arizona. They were on the Gordon Ramsay show, but they were the classic case of what not to do on social media. And they would delete things, and they would deny. And it became this huge explosion. Whereas if they just said, you know what, you're right, we totally screwed up, done deal, it takes the winds out of the sails of the negative people. And so that takes us into number 3. So you've owned up to it. But you may or may not have deleted the post. And so the next step is to track it and track mentions and engage. So if somebody did take a screenshot, or if people, say on Twitter, were tweeting about your post and tweeting negative things, respond to those posts and say, hey, we're so sorry. We know it was a total mistake on our part. We've taken care of it. So engage in the conversation that might be happening around the negative posts that accidentally occurred. That way you can try and nip the negativity in the bud as fast as possible. And it goes hand in hand with responsibility, where you're responding individual to people. So you're engaged. They know you care. It matters to you. They matter to you. And you're just kind of trying to wipe it out as fast as possible.
Right. And I think there's 2 things to that. One, if you're actually engaging, it shows the sincerity, and people are going to see that also. Other people are going to see that engagement, so it kind of creates an overall feeling of goodwill that you're trying to convey. The other thing is, if you're not comfortable, you're not sure how to convey or what that message should be, then it may be a smart idea to bring in a social media expert or a PR expert to kind of help you mold that conversation. because the last thing you want to do is dig a deeper hole, make things worse. Guys with women, we do that all the time. So sometimes it's helpful to just, minimize what you have to say, or just make sure that you choose your words wisely.
Right. You definitely don't want to fan the flames. So, and this goes into, so then this takes us into number 4, and that's develop a strategy to take care of this, and develop a post-approval process for the future. So if you didn't have any sort of approval process to try and prevent this from happening, you might want to put a procedure in place for that. Things like making sure you have an editorial calendar so that you can approve things in advance before they go out. So you can, if something accidentally ends up in there as a link, things like that, then you can catch it before it happens, most likely. And then part of your plan ongoing is, if it were to happen again, what's your plan? Thinking of these 3-4 steps, and who's in charge of it? Who is going to monitor for comments and responses? Who's responsible for that? Who's responsible for taking care of it? What are the words you're going to say so you don't inflame it even worse, if you're tactful and sorry and taking ownership? So having a clear-cut plan in place is a really good idea, and also having the assignments of who's responsible for what, so that nothing gets dropped while you're doing it.
Yeah, and I think there's two thoughts that I'm thinking of when you say that. One is also, depending on how large your company is, how many people actually have access to your account? Are you rotating out passwords so that a vindictive ex-employee isn't able to find access somehow? And also by eliminating the possibility for multiple people. If you only have 1 or 2 people that have access, then you limit the touch points that somebody could create an issue. And the one thing I really like about having an action plan in place is that if it does happen, you have a procedure that you can follow so you can take action quickly, versus having to figure something out on the fly, making a knee-jerk emotional reaction, or not taking into consideration everything, where if you had a procedure, it would step you through, all the different things you should consider in your response.
Right, and consider it the same as your evacuation plan. You hope your building will never catch on fire and you'll never need to evacuate it. However, you have a plan in place just in case it does. So it's the same philosophy here. You have a plan in place, worst case scenario, just in case it happens, but you hope it never does. And then with the access parts, there are things you can do, like using OneLogin or LastPass. There are lots of software programs, websites where I use it all the time with my employees, where they log into OneLogin and they have access to what I've said that they get access to. And they click a button and it logs them in. So they actually don't have the passwords. They have a one-click button. So the advantage of that is I only need to go to one place and remove them from one location, and they lose access to everything if I need to. So consider having some of that in place, that, myself as the business owner, I have all the passwords, obviously, but then creating a stopgap like that, so that if an employee leaves and they're disgruntled, you can wipe them out really quick and easy without having to worry about anything.
Okay, perfect. Well, tell you what, we're coming up on the last minute of the show, so let's recap real quickly what those 4 steps are that business owners should take an account for as they're creating an action plan or response to a negative post on their social media account.
So first, you want to determine whether or not you need to delete the post, and don't do it rash. Make a rash decision on that. Be thoughtful before you actually just delete. 2 is take responsibility and ownership of it. Own up to it and just say, "Yep, we were wrong." 3 is monitor the different social media platforms where the negative posts happened, and engage with any conversations that are going on so that you can try and wipe out the flames. And 4 is create a posting approval strategy with a social editorial calendar, so you can approve posts in advance before they go out, to try and prevent this from happening again. And then just have an overall plan of, if it happens again, who's in charge of what, and have a strategy in place to take care of it so you can wipe it out as fast as possible.
All right, perfect. So there you go. It's as easy as 1, 2, 3, 4. Yes, it will take a little bit of time. However, should something happen, it could really save your bacon, especially nowadays with how fast information travels on the internet. It's really smart to have a social media preparedness plan, outline all of that together. Hope you found some great information out of this episode. Next week, we're going to be talking about something super exciting. I'm going to keep it a secret because it's that good. And we're looking forward to seeing you next week. Sarah, as always, I appreciate the time and energy that you put into the show and your expertise in social media.
Thank you, Ryan. It's always a pleasure. I have a blast doing these every week with you.
All right, awesome. Take care, everybody, and we will see you next Wednesday.